These are Nebraska corn farmers. They work in acres, not hours, harvesting the energy and climate solutions the world needs. We are proud to stand with you.
The success of tomorrow's soy industry depends on the actions we take today. The future is here, and the time to move is now.
Market Journal Television for Agricultural Business Decisions is a presentation of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources in partnership with the Nebraska Rural Radio Association. Promotional support provided by the Nebraska Farmer Magazine and partial funding provided by the Nebraska Soybean Board and the Nebraska Corn Board.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Bryce Duskett, and thanks so much for making time for us today on Market Journal. As you can see, we're out of the studio as we broadcast from this year's Husker Harvest Days just to the west of Grand Island. Man, what a great year it was for Husker Harvest Days. Great weather and a big crowd all 3 days of the show. Coming up on today's broadcast, it's all about Husker Harvest Days. We'll be checking in with the folks from the Nebraska Soybean Board, learn what's been new with them as they're interacting with farmers out here at the show. Also, we'll talk some of those demonstrations. Steve White was standing by with an update for us on that front. Well, let's begin right here and get a check in with the folks from the Nebraska Corn Growers Association on all that's going on with their group. The show, we're visiting now with Morgan Rick. She's from Nelson, Nebraska, also a member of the Nebraska Corn Growers Association. And out here at the show, you're talking all about ag policy, some of the priority areas for Nebraska Corn Growers Association. One of them continues to be year-round E15. I know California's got some news on that front, but it's still not a national implemented thing. So you're talking with the farmers about that, right?
Yes, we would love for farmers who are at Husker Harvest Days to stop by our booth, stop by our building here, the Commodities Building, and sign our petition to get year-round E15. Our Director of Public Policy and some board members will be going to DC here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be bringing that petition with them to give to the legislatures. So the more signatures we can have on that, the better.
Seems like Nebraska's congressional delegation has been fairly favorable to that idea. The issue's not necessarily with our delegation, right?
Yes, correct. Our delegation has been really great about trying to get E15 year-round, but we really need the rest of our congressional representatives to get on that bus.
Let's talk about some other things outside of E15 that the Nebraska Corn Growers Association is keeping an eye on. What else is on that list?
Of course, trade. Trade is a big issue right now with the tariffs and all of those things going on. You know, corn farmers want to be able to sell their corn on the market. We want to have free, open trade, so that's what we're hoping for.
And trade always in the news, it seems like, right now. Let's get an update on crops in your area, Nelson, Nebraska. How are things looking?
You know, they're looking okay. Our crops were lucky. We got spared from the big storm that happened here a couple of weeks ago. Some of our neighbors weren't as lucky. We're still probably a week and a half to 2 weeks out from harvest. Corn's about 35% moisture right now, so still have some drying down to do. But guys are just sitting and waiting, so we'll see what happens.
Any particular diseases that the fields have had this year?
We've had some corn rust out there, but we just had a lot of wind damage. Not so much hail in our area, but a lot of wind.
What have you seen out here at Husker Harvest Days that's caught your eye that you like?
Well, we've been looking at some grain bins, looking at some equipment, seeing what they've got out there. You know, prices are high and commodity prices are low, so we'll see what we can get done. Inputs. That's the challenge right now. Anything that the Nebraska Corn Growers Association or the National Corn Growers Association, frankly, could do to address that? So, of course, we talked about trade. Year-round E15 would be a really great help for our corn crop. And also livestock development. You know, working with our partners at AFAN, the Alliance for Future of Ag in Nebraska, to get more livestock production here in the state of Nebraska so that we can take the corn and the soybeans that we're raising here straight to another farm in Nebraska, and it doesn't have to leave the state.
Could have visited with the folks there from the Nebraska Corn Growers Association. Of course, they've got a lot of their farmer leaders out here at this show. A staple of Husker Harvest Days is the field demonstrations. In the past, it's been all about the combines, but this year they've expanded. You can see rakes and hay demonstrations. You can also see manure spreading this year. That's brand new for 2025. Steve White is standing by with an update of some of those field demonstrations here on the grounds.
It's one thing to be at a farm show and kick the tires on a fancy new combine like these, but Husker Harvest Days is no ordinary farm show. Where else can you get down, see how clean it picked, and see all these machines side by side in the same field? At Husker Harvest Days, you don't just look at the new equipment, you hear it roar. Phones out for the most Instagrammed part of the show, overseen by Grand Island farmer Artie Moeller.
Yeah, it's a must-see. I mean, it's interesting to see what's new and great out there and just look at the new paint, you know, what they're coming out with, like the new AF10 and stuff like that.
Artie had his eye on the new Case IH Combine. This show is one of the few places you can see lots of iron in real-world conditions.
Here you get to come out and physically see the machines run, and you can use your own judgment on it, not what someone's telling you. You can walk out in the field and pick it apart, what you liked and what you don't like about how it did today.
Dina Morgan of Farm Progress says it sets Husker Harvest Days apart.
It's always been one of my favorite features of the show, and I know a lot of our visitors too like to come out and see those combines working through that corn, watch the auger wagons, and just everything with harvest. It gets you excited about the upcoming season. Not only combines that are going through, but they're looking at all the different head companies too.
Locals like Kenny Layer come in their golf carts to get a front row seat.
All right, I like to watch them work. Big machines.
The show offers tillage and manure demos, but Kyle Rosh says harvest equipment steals the show.
For one, a combine has the most moving parts on a machine on a farm probably, and it's just neat to see it in action. You know, people that have never seen equipment like this can come out here and see it run right in front of you. I mean, it's 40 foot away. Real cool.
Husker Harvest Days is Nebraska's largest gathering of FFA members outside of the state convention, and even attracts kids from out of state like Hayden Osdemore.
Probably seeing like all the farm equipment and like meeting a whole bunch of YouTubers.
Talon Van Arsdal had his eye on the big red machine.
Basically just AF11, I was so excited to see it. 24 row on it right now, so it'll be cutting pretty soon. We got t-shirts flying everywhere. It's pretty exciting.
Corn debris not the only thing in the air.
That was a t-shirt cannon.
Yeah, that's no joke.
This Talon is eagle-eyed, clawing a freebie.
Got one.
We got it on camera, and Talon gets this action on video.
Always Snapchat, farming at night, BTO status.
And whether you're a big-time operator or just an FFA kid posting BTO status on Snapchat, the Combine demo remains the show within a show at Husker Harvest Days.
It's no joke. That's no joke.
Reporting near Grand Island, I'm Steve White.
Thanks for that story, Steve. We appreciate your contributions here at the show. Of course, at Husker Harvest Days, you can find a lot of people from Nebraska Extension as they showcase their statewide reach. And that reach is getting even better with a ribbon-cutting ceremony recently held for a new N Farms facility. Here are some of the sights and sounds from that event.
We're here at the Eastern Nebraska Research Extension and Education Center having the ribbon cutting for our new N Farms facility, so Nebraska Future Ag Research and Management Systems. This is going to be kind of our hub for this, what I consider like an innovation ecosystem where companies, student projects can be conducted to develop and test the next generation of farm management technologies. We've never had a footprint here at NREC where students and team members can come up and work specifically with technology. So robotic systems, drones, those type of things, data collection systems. So again, that's what our hope is this could really be a unique location. The data all goes to a centralized database that could be extended across the state once we have a better idea of what those other facilities are wanting to do. So, again, it's filling a gap that we've never really had here to be able to do this kind of work.
NFarm is a powerful example of what it means to lead with purpose and impact. This platform has been designed with producers at the center. This is the heart of our land grant mission. It's taking our research, discovery, and innovation and putting it to work for the people of Nebraska. As was mentioned, we want to thank our strong partners and supporters. You have been instrumental in ensuring that this vision for NFarms has become a reality, and so thank you very much for that. As Derek mentioned, we also want to thank our talented team of faculty, staff, and administrators. This would not be happening without your vision, your expertise, your collaborative spirit, and your commitment to the future. And so once again, thank you for helping us launch N Farms, and we know that you will be instrumental in helping it move forward in the future and really helping us to be the leader in ag tech innovation. The other thing that I would add is N Farms is really a wonderful example of our land grant mission in action. We talk about our importance of our research, discovery, and innovation, and then we have Nebraska Extension that takes that research and innovation and connects it with the producers in Nebraska and frankly around the world. And then we also have N Farms as a wonderful experiential learning platform in which our talented undergrad and graduate students are going to be able to take what they're learning in their classrooms and they're going to be able to connect that in a real world context. And then finally, living out that land grant mission, it's a place for us to be a connector with industry partners, with entrepreneurs, with startups. Many of the ways that we've heard today, we are very much looking forward to being able to move those ideas and that innovation and that partnership forward.
You can expect much more content when it comes to the Nebraska Extension professionals as we were out here at the show getting lots of stories with them, so stay tuned for Market Journal for those stories in the weeks to come. Up next, what's going to happen in the grain markets? A pretty common question out here at the show. Thankfully, we had an expert join us here on Market Journal to give us his thoughts on that exact question. Mark Gold is with Top Third Ag Marketing, a division of StoneX Financial. He resides in Chicago. He joined us out here at Grand Island, and I began by asking him about the current price of corn and soybeans. Talk about current prices of the row crop commodities, in particular corn and soybeans, not the prices farmers want around harvest time.
Right, you know, we're at low prices in both corn and beans out here. We know we're going to have pretty big crops out here. How big, nobody knows. We'll get an idea on the USDA report on Friday. So, you know, overall, I've been telling farmers it really doesn't matter whether the yield is 188 or 184. Yes, it's a difference, but either way, we're still going to have big crops, big corn crop, big corn carryout. We got a problem that too many farmers are still holding old crop corn. So I think what we've got to think about doing here is, what are we going to do with this grain at harvest? We're going to put it in bags, we're going to pile it somewhere. I think all those things are going to happen. But what I want farmers to know is, once we get through this harvest, and maybe we pressure some prices even deeper than we would like it to do, don't give up hope. If you do sell the grain, in my opinion, you need to buy a call option sometime after harvest to keep the upside open. Markets go in cycles. Prices go up, prices go down, and so on. And right now we're low, but at some point we're going back up. Something will happen.
Historically speaking, you've followed the markets year to year for a very long time. I won't say how many years, but
you can tell them 52 years. I'm older. Yeah, I turned 71 this year and been doing it since really I was a kid. And you know, if you would have told me when I was 18 years old I'd be in agriculture, I would have laughed at you. I'm a Chicago guy, you know, but I fell into it, and I've never regretted the decision I made.
From that experience, though, farmers, if they're gonna hold for the most part as much as they can at home, put it in a bag, put it in the bin.
Yeah.
They want to know, how long do I need to hold on to this? When could things turn around?
Well, it's hard to say, but what I would do is start looking at some of the carryovers that are in the market right now. The carry in the corn market is about 30 cents to store it and to go out and sell a deferred contract. So many farmers, though, they'll put it in the bin and say, well, there's carry in the market, so I don't have to go out and do anything. Well, and you have to capture the carry, you have to sell that deferred contract. Even if the price is low, sell it, get it out of your hands, get it into the merchandiser's hands where it belongs, but then buy a call option. Because once we get the grain out of the farmer hands, that's when we can see the market lift.
Sure.
I've always said, you know, American farmers ask me every year, how come the prices only go up when we don't have the grain? And it's because you don't have the grain. So what we want to do is get it out of the farmer hands, get it to the merchandisers. That allows the market to go up. But once you've sold it, you don't want to just give up on it. You want to re-own it with a call option. Spend 10, 12 cents to stay in the game.
The trade discussions have really influenced the markets, in particular soybeans this year. A lack of Chinese demand has been one of the factors that analysts keep telling us has led us to the soybean prices. Do you see that changing before the end of the year?
Probably not. I think we've dug ourselves a hole with the Chinese out here. And, you know, maybe rightfully so. You got to punish the Russians for what they're doing in Ukraine, in my opinion, and the Chinese keep buying Russian oil cheap. So, you know, how do you combat that? You know, you try to do it through tariffs. I'm not sure it's working, but I think after the first of the year, I think things might change. The Brazilians are going to plant a big crop, but I look at some of these weather trends, and I'm just not sure that we're not in for some very hot and dry weather. So again, you know, if you're going to put the beans in the bin, you got a 50-cent carry out to May beans out there, out to July. Capture that carry, sell the deferred, and buy back some call options to keep the upside open. But I think we'll see what the report says, but right now we're looking at a 290 carry out in the beans. If we lose just 1 bushel an acre, now we're talking about much tighter carryouts, potential for the market to move higher. And let's not forget, we're exporting some beans out here. A lot of countries, Mexico, Taiwan, South Korea, places we haven't really sold a lot of grain to, have really stepped up, and we see these numbers every week. And in the unknown category, which we still believe is China, somebody's buying those beans, and my guess it's the Chinese, because there is a price advantage buying the U.S. beans right now.
Let's jump from row crops over to cattle here as we're at Husker Harvest Days in Nebraska. Need to talk to cattle markets, get your thoughts there. On last week's show, our analyst said, you know, if we lose $10, not a big deal on the futures, but if we lose 20, watch out. That's the warning sign. What's your warning sign? Here on Tuesday, we visit Wednesday. We did see cattle down quite a bit. We've turned our things around, and we're kind of mixed as the midday session continues.
Yeah, on Tuesday we were limit down in the feeders, down $5-6 in the fat cattle. We've seen this before in this market. And every time we've either had a key reversal, and we've had 5 of those key reversals in the last several months, or we have this limit down, the market always comes back because the cash has stayed strong. And even to yesterday and today, the cash cattle didn't go down nearly as far as the futures did. That's a potentially good sign. But I'm watching also the box beef market. We got up to 417 and change, back down under 410 now. We're still above the highs we made 2 months ago at 397. We start getting under 397 now. That tells me that consumer demand is backing off. The American housewife may not be buying as much steak, as much hamburger, shifting to other things. There's no cheap alternative, but there's pasta, there's fish, there's chicken, there's other things out there, and that would be a key thing. Now, we did yesterday close under the 20-day moving average, under the trend line. That's a warning sign. If we close bad on Wednesday, down another $3 or $4 in the feeders, down another 2 or 3 in the fats, I think maybe the cattle have finally seen its day.
Fun conversation there with Mark to get his thoughts on where the markets are heading, not only on the grain front, but also getting a question in there when it comes to cattle. Up next, let's check in back in the studio with Eric Hunt to discuss all things weather. And Eric, couldn't have asked for 3 better days for Husker Harvest Days. Just banner weather out here at the show. What can we expect, though, as we turn to the next 7 days?
Well, thanks, Bryce. We definitely have some chances for precipitation coming up here the next week to 10 days. We also should sneak in some nicer weather as well. Definitely might have chances for precipitation this weekend, though, particularly across the western portion of the state on late Saturday into Sunday, and then probably the eastern portion of the state as we head into Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. Complements this trough that will be slowly moving from the Four Corners region into the Central Plains as we head into the weekend. Further toward our east ridge, will be dominantly looking at a late season heat wave from eastern Iowa into portions of Indiana. We're expecting high temperatures, maybe potentially getting into the mid to upper 90s in some spots over there. In terms of precipitation, the heaviest precipitation of, there's a chance to pick up a ½ to an inch. WPC shows it's probably along and east of Highway 83. I think there's going to be a chance to pick up a little bit more precipitation that's currently projected here across portions of east central Nebraska. But for the most part, though, the best chance of picking up significant precipitation this weekend is likely to be west of Highway 81. We should get a little bit in precipitation as we head toward the early portion of the work week. So Monday, Tuesday, especially Monday, likely see a decent amount of sunshine. Temperatures probably getting back into the 80s statewide, potentially even well into the 80s for some places. Same story likely for Tuesday. Let's get into Wednesday, though. It looks like we're going to see another upper-level low moving into the Central Plains. So that should open up chances for showers and thunderstorms across the entire state, although I think the better chance of picking up significant precipitation will be kind of along and east of Highway 83 or maybe potentially even Highway 281. The WPC shows the best chance of picking up significant precipitation would be across the northeastern quadrant of the state. Again, there may be a little bit better fetch moisture coming in from the Gulf that's currently being indicated here by the WPC. So I do think there's going to be a chance of picking up a little bit more precipitation what's currently projected here across the eastern 1/3 to 1/2 of the state. Looking a little bit deeper the crystal ball, CPC shows above average being favored for the 8 to 14 day outlook. Now again, I feel pretty confident we're going to have multiple chances of precipitation coming up here. And somewhere between the 20th and 24th of September, I do feel pretty confident about everybody in the state having some precipitation. Bigger question is going to be timing and amounts. The AI model does show a pretty decent trough coming in here to the Four Corners region, moving out into the Central Plains as we head toward the weekend after next. It's possible that we could see precipitation coming into the state as early as next Saturday, possibly not until early the week after next. And it's also possible that we could even see some significant amounts of precipitation here across forests of the Central Plains and Western Corn Belt. But this is still a ways out. I'm not super confident in some of these solutions because we are seeing a bit of discrepancy in terms of timing and amounts. Regardless, there is pretty good model agreement. We should see additional precipitation chances throughout the entire region here as we head early the week after next. So if you don't get the precipitation this weekend, got multiple chances coming up here the next couple of weeks. Looking out for temperatures, again, these are probably certainly showing above average being favored for pretty much the entire country. I do think there's going to be chances some of the afternoons coming up here will be at or below seasonal temperatures, particularly when we have cloud cover precipitation. Our nighttime temperatures, though, are likely to stay relatively elevated. Probably going to see temperatures may not even drop below 70 here at times this weekend here across forests of eastern Nebraska. Quite the change from last week when we saw some very cool temperatures. We did even see some temperatures drop below freezing here across forests of the northern panhandle early this last weekend. Not generally setting temperature records, but we did see temperatures drop to the upper 20s across this region. So about 3 or 4 weeks earlier than we typically expect to see temperatures at that level here across forests of the panhandle. What you're looking at here, though, is the median first freeze date across the entire north central region. So for most of Nebraska, it's pretty much all the month of October. Earlier in October, as you head toward the north and the west. I'm not necessarily seeing any sub-freezing temperatures coming back into the region here the next 7 to 10 days. Maybe a slight chance that we get some cooler temperatures as we head toward the equinox, or cool enough that maybe we'd actually see some light frost across forests of the panhandle. But there's no real risk of any significant cold air coming in here in the immediate future. Looking at the month of October, European model doesn't actually show much signal for temperature for us. It actually shows right around average. I do think there's going to be opportunities to get some colder air at times in the month of October. Again, last several falls, we actually have seen temperatures at times drop significantly below average in the month of October, more so than we've seen the month of September and November. In terms of precipitation, they are favoring dry across most of this region. Now, again, this model's also been showing dry pretty frequently so far this growing season. It hasn't necessarily come to fruition, but there are some indications that some of the patterns that we may see teleconnection-wise may actually favor things being a little bit drier. I'm not seeing any really strong signals that would suggest that we're going to see a significantly wet and cool October. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we have that for harvest, as we've had some decent precipitation for a lot of us so far this growing season early this fall. We could actually probably use a little bit of drier weather at times to get harvest done. Precipitation, rain the last 7 days, we did see some decent amounts across forests of southeastern Nebraska, scattered amounts here across forests of the Sandhills and the Panhandle. Not a whole lot of precipitation up here across forests of northeastern Nebraska. We had a little bit sneaky dry up here the last 30 to 40 days or so, but we were so wet before then, they're not seeing any change on the drought monitor. We have seen change on drought monitor that was here across the Mid-South region, across forests of lower Midwest, and very, very dry here the last 45 to 60 days. Flash drought imminent here. Also seeing some flash drought across forests of New England. We saw very warm temperatures overnight across the entire U.S. for the summer, and especially to our east. And that did have an impact on the Corn Belt minimum temperature. So again, we were wet and warm for the Corn Belt as a whole. Near 16, 18. The difference in those 2 years, though, is I think we had a lot more cloud cover and more humidity for disease pressure. Temp and precip rounding for the week ending September 6, 2025. Back to you, Bryce.
Thanks for that update, Eric. We appreciate it. We'll see what happens in weather. Back here at Husker Harvest Days, another group that had a presence inside the commodity building was the Nebraska Soybean Board. Mark Caspers is the chairman of the Nebraska Soybean Board. He joined us on Wednesday morning to give us his thoughts on how his crops are progressing near Auburn, Nebraska, and preview some of the work happening inside the Nebraska Soybean Board. We're going to talk, Mark, about some of the activity of the board here in a second, but first, give us an update as we're in the home stretch of the growing season. How has 2025 been for your operation?
Well, down there in Nemaha County, things are looking really good. You know, it started off a little bit tough. I remember kind of wondering the middle of May if we're going to have anything or not, but it started raining, and it seems like that rain kept going. You know, you get a little ways west of me, though, Bryce, and that slowed down a little bit. But things are looking really good right now, other than maybe some late season disease that moved in. But we're just getting ready to gear up for what will look to be a good harvest.
Does the disease pressure, particularly in corn in your area, seem like it's more abundant this year than in years past?
It does. You know, I've got some fields that gray leaf spot, tar spot, and southern rust especially, moved in a big way, and that was after fungicide treatment, and still going to see some issues out there.
Well, speaking of issues, that brings up the importance of testing out in your fields to see what's there present so we can make plans for 2026. That includes the Nebraska Soybean Board has funding for soybean cyst nematode. You can send in samples. Tell me about that program.
Yeah, sample bags are available at your county agent, and make sure before harvest you get an assortment of those bags, and then while you're harvesting or just after harvest, get out to those fields and send in those samples. It's part of your checkoff dollars at work, and that soybean cyst nematode, that really can be a silent yield robber. If you find out you have it, there's ways to find varieties that'll work around that, but it's good information to have on your farm.
And visiting with the extension folks, they say you got to test now so you can make those plans for next year. That's very important.
Absolutely, and I think it's a good use of checkoff dollars, so take advantage of it.
All right. Let's talk about the checkoff and the various ways you continue to invest the farmer dollar and make sure that they still have demand for soybeans in this case moving forward. Things continue to evolve. What do you see as the key priorities of investments for the Nebraska Soybean Board moving forward?
Well, some of the projects that I'm really proud of that I think have brought some results financially in a good way back to Nebraska farmers. On the oil side, we've got the biodiesel. And through the Clean Fuels Alliance America, we've been promoting that in both the form of liquid vehicle fuels and also bioheat in the northeast part of the United States. Then on the meal side of the equation, which makes up, of course, about 80% of our soybean crop, I think we've had wonderful success, and Nebraska was kind of a pioneer on it in developing meal to feed to aquaculture. And that really could be just on the verge of a really big market out there. We've got a lot of mouths to feed in this world, and that number continues to grow each year. And I think this would be a good way to utilize soybean meal and feed a hungry world, Bryce.
Thanks again to Mark for sitting down with us here at the show. Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for this week's broadcast. I want to let you know if you missed one of our stories, you can always go back and watch our individual stories we post to the Market Journal YouTube channel. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to the show. We'll be back in the studio next week. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, I'm Bryce Duskett, wishing you a safe and productive week.
Join Market Journal online at marketjournal.unl.edu. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Promotional support is provided by the Nebraska Farmer Magazine. Market Journal is produced by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources.